Hello everyone, what's your Beatston? Without my plushie right now, but I'm gonna tell you what we'll be doing. That's another reaction video, and this one will be reacting to Family Curse Graves of the Von Erichs, Wrestling Legends. So hope you like it. If you think it's good, put this up, hit the subscribe button, turn notifications, and let's get started.
Well, hello, my friends. It's your old pal, Jordan the Lion. How are all of you today? Excellent. Well, today we're going to take a little road trip from Waco back up to Dallas, where I landed, and we're going to go to a cemetery and go pay homage, pay our respects to who we all know as the Von Erich family. Actually, they're the Atkinson family. Fritz Von Erich changed his name when he was a professional wrestler to portray a Nazi wrestler, a bad guy, and eventually would form world-class wrestling, would have 6 sons. 5 of his sons would pass away before Fritz, but all 5 of those sons would at one time or another be in the wrestling business and would have some sort of catastrophic story to their life. So today we're going to go visit the grave of the great Von Erich family. Days with Jordan the Lion begins now, and David Posthumous, today is your Patreon sunglass vlog. Let's go. So we're heading out just east of Dallas to Grove Hill Cemetery, the hilltop section. All right, we made it up to the hilltop section of the cemetery, and they're not all necessarily right beside each other, but they are all in the same section behind me, so I'll show you around. So as soon as you park, right here, right below this tree, is the very first son. I mentioned they had 6 sons. One did not wrestle. It was Jackie. Little Jackie right here. Died when he was 6 years old. His father was actually Jack Atkinson, and he went by Fritz Von Erich. He was a traveling wrestler after. He was originally a football player and then became a traveling wrestler. The family had a mobile home that they attached to the back of their car. And one day when little Jackie was coming home from school one day, he was going around the trailer by the trailer hitch and I guess touched an exposed wire and was electrocuted and fell face first into some melting snow and ended up drowning. And his son, the only son left, Kevin, says this was when his father's complete mentality changed. He said he went from being a really nice guy to almost feeling like he needed to make the world suffer as much as he did. And that character, him being that Nazi character, he would be one of the most hated people in the ring. Kevin said that was always horrible for the kids because they said if we went to a wrestling match and we heard cheering, we knew that Dad was losing. Dad loved to be a villain and made his name doing it. Now, right here we have David Von Erich, the Yellow Rose of Texas. He was really the one that I think hurt the most because he had the most potential. He was the best wrestler of all the sons. He was really following in Fritz's footsteps. All the sons did. In Texas, they was extremely well known because world-class wrestling was broadcast on TV. Fritz was probably the first guy to put microphones in the ring so you could hear what was going on in the ring. And his son, David, was really the most successful. Now, what ended up happening to David was really sad. He was looking kind of sick, and he was supposed to go to Japan to wrestle. And there was one rule that Fritz had: you don't miss a show. And he was kind of complaining about being sick. He'd been thrown up. And Fritz said, you don't miss the show. So David went. Even Kevin said the night before, he said, we were sitting around the table, and I looked at him, I said, I have a bad feeling about this. So a couple of nights later, the booker for World Class Wrestling got a phone call. It was All Japan Pro Wrestling saying, David Von Erich found dead in hotel. And that was all they said. So they contacted Bruiser Brody, another wrestler who they knew was out there, and found out that Bruiser Brody had went in the hotel room and found David, and Bruiser.
One of the appliances I use the most in my kitchen is my air fryer. So now I'm going to do them.
Brody said that David was reaching for the phone. Now, rumors spread immediately that it was painkiller overdose because, you know, all these wrestlers had a lot of injuries, a lot of pain, and they thought that's what it was. And originally, that's kind of what the rumor was, and Fritz just said, hey, I want an autopsy done. Whatever the autopsy finds is what we're going to tell people. We're going to be truthful about this. Because there's like a rumor that Bruiser Brody, since he was the first one in there, took all the pills and threw them away. But what the autopsy showed was that, unfortunately, David had, I believe his intestines had split and opened up, and basically his body filled up with blood, and he died. So it was a natural thing. It was like a unfortunate, horrible way to go. But they said this sent Texas pretty much into a tailspin. They said you went to like the mall afterward and people were like crying. It was a serious thing. And when they had the funeral, 4,000 to 5,000 people showed up. They had to move a television outside and speakers so that they could all hear and see some of the service. Now, if you turn around and you go right behind us, you have two of the other Von Erich brothers. On the left here is Michael, and on the right here is Chris. Both had really sad stories because they both, in a weird way, kind of mirrored each other's problem. Was for wrestlers, they were smaller than your average wrestler. Michael, I would say, was more built like a basketball player, and Chris had health issues from the time he was young. It stunted his growth. He had asthma, so they said he had brittle bones. He was only 5'5", and at the age of 21, he ended up committing suicide. Now, before he passed away, Michael also committed suicide. What happened to him was when his brother David died, he decided he was going to take on filling those shoes, and he just wasn't quite the wrestler. He didn't have quite the potential. He didn't have quite the agility or the athleticism to do it, but he had all the heart and wanted to. And while he was wrestling in Tel Aviv, he dislocated a shoulder, and they took him to the hospital. They had the surgery, and then when he had recovered, he flew back to the U.S., and he ended up getting a staph infection. And this staph infection led to something called toxic shock syndrome, and his body started shutting down. And they said he was pretty much going to die that night, and they even put it out on the airwaves, like, pray for Michael Von Erich, because it's, you know, he's probably not going to make it through the night. The hospital said people were calling, offering to donate organs to help save him. And the chaplain, since I said that the family was so beloved in Texas, the chaplain came and did a prayer, and he read a prayer stating basically something that's in the Bible that says, I'll take care of all good men. And they said, Kevin said he was in the room, and he said the chaplain lifted the Bible over his head and said, this is your word, God. Make good on your word, and slammed the Bible down. And Kevin said not more than 20 seconds later, the door opened and the doctor walked in and said, we don't really know what's happened, but it looks like he's going to be okay. And he recovered, but Kevin Von Erich said that his brother was always different after this. He said he had like a hollow, gaunt look to him. He never really regained his form, and he said he would start having weird episodes, and Kevin said he thought it was possible brain damage from that, because he said he would start, Michael would be out in public, he said he would start attacking a light pole, or he would start fighting a traffic signal. He said one time he watched him go and attack a parked car with nobody in it. He said just kind of weird things. And so he started abusing pills, got pulled over one night under the suspicion of DUI and having possession of marijuana, and the next night he was supposed to wrestle, and he never showed up. And since Fritz's rule was you never miss a show, everybody panicked, and they knew his mindset wasn't very good. They sent out a message over the radio and television waves asking for any help finding Michael Von Erich, and 2 or 3 days later they found him. He had overdosed out near a lake. He had taken himself out there, zipped himself up in a sleeping bag, and overdosed and died. Pretty sad. So then Chris tried to take on the family business and try and help the Von Erich name live on, and unfortunately, like I said, he was the smaller brother. He had his growth stunted. He wanted to be as good as his brothers, but he just, no matter how much he trained, he just couldn't get there. And he ended up breaking his arm in a match and fell into a depression. Kevin said one night he called me and said, "Hey, I want my VCR I loaned you back." And he said, "Well, can't this wait till the morning?" And Chris said, "No, I want it back," and hung up on him. And Kevin said about 15 minutes, Chris came out on his four-wheeler and was circling around the house, and then he took off, and I knew that he had a place up on a hill that he liked to go to think, and I went up there, and he was up there, and he said, "Well, Kev, did you find my note?" And he said, I said,
Okay, thank you so much for watching. If you guys like this video, give this video a big thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, turn notifications, and leave a comment. Subscribe to your channel for my family. And yeah, guys, again, I'm almost close to 520 subscribers. 520 subscribers. That's a lot. 500 to go. I really appreciate it. Again, this video is supposed to go to 1,000 subscribers. 4,000 people watching. So 500 to go. I really appreciate it. Again, these videos are posted to you guys. I love you guys so much for all your support. Like I always say, always mean. And yeah, also if you guys want to watch this, it was made by Daze with Jordan the Lion. I'll put the link to his video down in the description. But yeah, oh, I'm tired right now. Alright guys, here you go. Thanks so much for watching. Please like this video, leave a comment, subscribe for more, and I'll catch you guys for tomorrow for Family Curse, Graves of the Von Erichs, Wrestling Origins. Part 2, my bad. Alright guys, there you go. Goodbye, and have a good day or night.